Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura, and today I'd like to introduce to you my very first notion for my Sewtacular line, and it's an all-in-one binding ruler. Now this ruler is going to be able to cut our strips of fabric. It's going to be able to cut the ends so that we can join them together so we have those perfect strips of binding. Then when we get to the quilt, we have an end that is going to help us get those beautiful little 45-degree corners. And the ultimate, when we get to joining the beginning and the ending, there is no measurement involved. All we're going to need is a pencil and the ruler. So to start with, we do have our fabric. It's well pressed, and we have a straight edge. Now this ruler is nice and long, so we can cut those pieces. And we can cut the strips from the left or the right side. Now I do find it's easier if we take that fabric once it's been straightened and fold it in half. We don't need to do that, but it's just easier to cut these smaller strips than having to cut all the way to that 45. The ruler is designed so that we can cut right or left-handed. The ruler itself is 2.5 inches, but we have 2 1/4 inch marks and 2 inch marks. So we're going to be able to take this, and if we want 2 1/4, we're going to use the 2 1/4 on the one side or the 2 inch. If we want to go to the other side, it's the same. We have a 2 1/4 or a 2 inch, and we're going to be able to cut our strips depending on the size that we want. So I'm going to cut 2.5 inch wide strips. The edge is along the straight edge, and I can cut, shift, and just keep cutting my strips. Same thing goes with the other side. Once our strips are all cut, we're going to be able to open them up and place all of the right sides facing up. And I find we can put 4 layers together at a time. Once we have all of those layers together, we're going to cut that angle. So if we have 2 1/4, we're going to use this line. A 2 inch, we're going to use this. But I do have 2.5. So what I want to do is cut this line and that little dog ear off. Now all of the fabrics, we are looking so that the right side up, so you're always going to see the right side of the fabric. And cut that fabric off, and then cut that little dog ear off. So this gives us the proper angle to sew the pieces together. We've done that to the one side. We're going to do it to the next. So we're just going to bring those fabrics over and match up all of those ends. Once again, all of the fabrics need to be right side up, and the ruler is always going to be right side up. And we're going to cut that same angle. So all of the strips have that cut, which means they are going to sew together. So we're going to match up those 2 edges, and that little flat end is going to match up on each side. So we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance around this edge. Following that seam allowance, when we do open it up and press it open, we have a strip that matches together perfectly. So we're going to be able to do as many strips as we want, matching these edges and sewing them together. Go to the iron and press that open, and then we're going to take that and press it in half. We're going to be able to start sewing the binding on just like we would any other binding. We're going to match those raw edges together, but this time we're going to start stitching in at about 8 inches. And there is a little 8 inch mark there, just for your convenience. So we're going to start way over here, so we have an 8 inch tail. So we're going to stitch down, following that edge at a 1/4 inch. When we come to about 3 inches in this corner, we're going to do a drawing line. And the drawing line is right here. We're going to match that straight edge and this straight edge right along the quilt, keeping our binding nice and straight underneath. As long as these 2 edges are straight, we're going to be able to just draw right in that little wedge. So this is going to give us our stitching line. We're going to be able to continue that 1/4 inch and stitch following that line. Stop and pivot and stitch right off that corner. So we've stitched off, and I like to keep the thread attached. I'm going to use this as a bit of a handle in my next step. So I'm going to turn this. That angle is going to make me turn it already to the way I want. I'm going to put my fabric up, and then I'm going to fold it back down so that fold is right along that top edge. And the cut edge is now aligned up with the next edge. And this is where this little handle is going to come in handy. It's going to help me guide this fabric right to that needle. So you can start with the needle off or start with the needle on. But this is giving me that little handle that I need. I can pull that up, just give it a little bit of tension, and that is going to get that needle over that hump so I can continue stitching. So there was my little handle and that fold. Now I'm going to be able to continue stitching all the way down until I get to about 3 inches. And I'm going to draw that line, stitch, and do the 4 corners the same way. So we're going to continue stitching the binding all the way around until we get close to our beginning point. And we're going to want to leave at least 8 inches of this end and stitch off. So we have that ending, and this is where we began. So we're going to lay this out flat, take that angle, and place it right on top of that seam. So you can see where that angle is. This top piece, we're going to open it up, just smooth this down until you come to this edge. And in here, you're going to see this little wedge, and that is going to fit a pencil line. So we're going to straighten up that binding, find that little groove with our pen, and draw a line. That line is now our cutting line. We have that little square point and an angle. These 2 edges are now going to match up. So these 2 edges are going to be joined just like we did the binding. Match them up. You can see that those points match, and we're going to stitch a 1/4 inch and sew those together. Once we've stitched that seam, when we open that up, it's going to match perfect. Now I would recommend going in and just finger pressing this open, and then we're going to be able to finish stitching that down. So as you can see, all of the features on this ruler definitely makes binding so very easy. I do hope you enjoy this ruler as much as I did making this ruler and developing this ruler. It was a lot of fun to do. This ruler will be available in my store, and I'll put some links in the description so that you can check it out. And thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and I do have a newsletter. It's all free under Sew Very Easy. And now you'll be able to find me on my online store. Be sure to have a sew-tacular day. Bye for now.